And the second thing, real quick, the fare rises tomorrow. When are those free buses coming?
Fare rise today.
Fare rise today?
This is
Oh my God.
fare rise today.
I got
Gotta get it right, brother. Look, when the fare was $2.90, 1 in 5 New Yorkers were being priced out of it. We know that for so many New Yorkers, public transit is increasingly becoming out of reach. That is why at the heart of our campaign was a commitment to make the slowest buses in America fast and to make them free. And that will continue to animate our work. It will continue to be one of the central commitments of our administration. And that is work that we will be doing in tandem with Albany and our state partners there.
Because I can't keep bumming rides off my friends anymore.
Look, I have said when we ran this campaign on freezing the rent for rent-stabilized tenants, on making buses fast and free, on delivering universal childcare, I have said that by the time I am done being mayor, those will have been delivered.
Let's take you live to New York, where the new mayor, Zohran Mamdani, is speaking in his first full day in office.
1,000 volunteers who knocked on more than 3 million doors. Not just to win an election, but to build leadership and a real sense of community across this city. She also spent many years working at the Blue Man Group, which means she brings both organizing discipline and an unusual tolerance for chaos. The Office of Mass Engagement reflects how we intend to govern, with humility, openness, and a firm belief that democracy is strongest when it belongs to the people, not just in theory, but in practice. And we should be clear about how this work will be judged, not by how many meetings we hold or surveys we collect, but by whether people can see their voices reflected in the decisions that we make. Judge us by whether engagement changes outcomes. Just as past generations invested in the public spaces around us, this administration is investing in the civic fabric that holds our city together. And that same commitment to openness, participation, and rebuilding trust in our institutions guides how we approach every part of city government. That is why today I am also announcing that Ali Najmi will serve as chair of the Mayor's Advisory Committee on the Judiciary. Under Ali's leadership, this committee will take on a more public and engaged role, reaching beyond City Hall to the wider legal community, demystifying the judicial selection process, expanding who participates in shaping our courts, and ensuring that our city's judicial system applies the rule of law universally and does so without favor.
That's the new New York City Mayor, Zohran Mamdani, making some announcements on his first full day in office.
The only expectation I seek to reset is that of small expectations. Beginning today, we will govern expansively and audaciously. We may not always succeed, but never will we be accused of lacking the courage to try. To those who insist that the era of big government is over, hear me when I say this. No longer will City Hall hesitate to use its power to improve New Yorkers' lives. A moment like this comes rarely. Seldom do we hold such an opportunity to transform and reinvent. Rarer still is it the people themselves whose hands are the ones upon the levers of change. And yet we know that too often in our past, moments of great possibility have been promptly surrendered to small imagination and smaller ambition. They want to know if the left can govern. They want to know if the struggles that afflict them can be solved. They want to know if it is right to hope again. So standing together with the wind of purpose at our backs, we will do something that New Yorkers do better than anyone else. We will set an example for the world.
Joining us live now is Associate Professor and Director of the Kevorkian Centre for Near Eastern Studies at NYU, Mohammed Bazzi. Good evening to you, Mohammed. So what's your take on Mr Mamdani and his first day of office?
I think there's a lot of excitement in New York. Mamdani taking office. You could see that in the numbers of people who went out in the extreme cold yesterday on January 1st for the inauguration, the public inauguration. City Hall was mobbed by people who wanted to get into especially the block party that was around the inauguration festivities. There's excitement about a new page, a new era in New York, and a lot of excitement over his affordability agenda. He's been very focused on these issues of affordability throughout the campaign and now in his first day and a half in office.
He told his voters that he promises to provide free childcare, freezing rents, free bus fares. How can this be achieved economically, for example?
A lot of this is going to cost money and possibly raise taxes. And he's not able to raise most taxes. He'll need support from the governor of New York State and the state legislature for quite a few of these programs, especially the getting funding for free childcare, universal childcare. In terms of freezing the rents, that's something that's a little more under his purview. And here we're not talking about all rents in New York City. He's specifically focused on rent-stabilized apartments and rent-controlled apartments. So we're talking about 1.5 million units, which is a large percentage of the housing stock. And he, as the mayor, appoints many members of the board that oversee that process every year, the process of setting the rent guideline. And he's promised a freeze of that for the next few years to help with affordability. But a lot of this is not under his control, and he needs to work with the governor and the state legislature.
So are people then questioning why he promised that when he was, going in to be the mayor, if it's not under his control?
So, all mayors of New York, previous mayors have promised different elements of this. Bill de Blasio, the mayor before Eric Adams, made universal childcare a centerpiece of his campaign. The mayor of the city doesn't control a lot of legislative capabilities that are under this purview of the state, especially that tricky question of taxation. I think what a lot of New Yorkers were excited about with Mamdani throughout the campaign is that focus on affordability and local issues. He really zeroed in on these questions of quality of life and the affordability of life in New York. And that's something he found, certainly with President Trump voters who were in the presidential election, really focused on the cost of living, high inflation, and these bread and butter issues that resonated with voters.
And what is your reaction on Israel accusing the mayor of pouring anti-Semitic gasoline on an open fire?
I think it's the first day. It's his first day in office. The executive order, as you pointed out in your report, the executive order that he signed undid quite a few executive orders that Mayor Adams had signed. Mamdani decided to set this point, after which Eric Adams was indicted by federal prosecutors, which is reasonable considering the history of back and forth between Mayor Adams and President Trump basically pressuring the Justice Department to drop that investigation into the mayor. And the Israeli government has chosen to go after Mamdani on his first day in office. I don't think a lot of New York voters are paying a lot of attention to this at this point. We're talking about Mamdani's the mayor of New York. He's not the mayor of Tel Aviv or the mayor of Jerusalem. And there's been a lot of effort to bring Israel and to bring the Middle East into this New York politics. Obviously, there's a very large Jewish population in New York. There's also a large, not quite as large, but a significant Muslim population, and there's a Palestinian population. So there are constituencies and communities that do care deeply about the Middle East. But he really ran a campaign focused on local issues.
All right, we've got to wrap it up. But Mohammed, really appreciate you joining us, and good evening to you.
Thank you for having me.